Most gardeners spend all summer trying to fix something that was already decided on planting day. They water more, they fertilize more, they worry more. And still the peppers come out small, thin-walled, and nowhere close to what they imagined when they put that seedling in the ground. Here is the truth that took me years to fully accept. The problem was never the plant. It was never the soil, or the weather, or bad luck. It was a handful of small decisions made in the first few minutes of planting that nobody ever sat down and explained. Welcome to Roots and Garden Secrets. My name is Harold Bennett. I have been growing peppers on our family land in rural Pennsylvania for most of my life, and over all those seasons I have made just about every mistake there is to make. I have also learned, slowly and through a lot of trial and a lot of error, exactly what this plant needs to give you everything it has. What I am sharing today is the complete picture. From the moment you bring a seedling home to the day you pull your first heavy, thick-walled pepper off the vine. Every step, every detail, nothing held back. If this is the kind of real growing knowledge you have been looking for, subscribe to Roots and Garden Secrets and hit that like button. Now let us get into it. Before we ever talk about the hole or what goes in the ground, I want to share the single most skipped step in all of pepper growing. It is the one that quietly ruins more plants than almost anything else. Most people bring their seedlings home from the nursery, or pull them out from under their grow lights, and plant them straight into the garden that same day. That right there is where the trouble starts. Those young plants have been living in a sheltered world, protected from wind, intense sun, and the temperature swings that happen naturally outdoors. When you move them straight into the open garden, the shock can be devastating. Leaves turn white and papery, stems go limp. Some plants never fully recover, and you spend the rest of the season nursing something that should have been thriving. The fix costs you nothing but a little patience. About 7 to 10 days before transplanting, start setting your seedlings outside for short stretches each day. The first day, give them an hour or two in a shaded, sheltered spot. Each day after that, increase the time and gradually move them into more sun. By the end of that week, they should be handling full days outside without any stress at all. That process is called hardening off, and it is not optional if you want strong, productive plants. One more thing before those seedlings go into the ground. Your soil temperature needs to be at least 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Pepper roots simply shut down in cold soil. The plant may look fine above ground, but nothing useful is happening below the surface. A basic soil thermometer from any garden center will tell you exactly where you stand. And always plant in the early morning or early evening, never in the heat of midday. Right before you set each plant in, take a bucket of clean water and let the root balls soak for about 15 minutes. A plant whose roots go into the ground already full of water establishes faster and suffers far less shock. While those roots are soaking, use that time to look your plant over carefully. Pinch off any yellowed leaves or damaged foliage. A struggling leaf only pulls energy away from the new root growth you need right now. And here is something most gardeners never consider. If your seedling already has flowers, or a tiny fruit, or two when you bring it home, pinch those off immediately. A plant flowering before it has settled into its new home is a plant under stress. Remove those early blooms. Give the plant 2 to 3 weeks to build a solid root foundation, and when it flowers again on its own terms, the peppers that follow will be bigger, more plentiful, and well worth the wait. Now we get to the part my grandfather Walter called the most important few minutes in the whole growing season. What you put in that hole, and how you set that plant into it, determines nearly everything that follows. Get this right, and the rest of the season works in your favor. Rush through it, and you spend all summer wondering why your plants never quite took off. The first thing I want to clear up is a mistake I see constantly, even from people who have been gardening for years. Peppers are not tomatoes. When you plant a tomato deep, burying a long stretch of its stem, the plant rewards you by growing new roots all along that buried stem. Peppers do not do that. If you bury a pepper stem too deep, it does not push out new roots. It sits in the dark, starved of oxygen, and eventually the stem begins to rot from the base up. Fungus moves in. The whole plant weakens before it ever had a real chance. So plant your peppers shallow. The right depth is about ½ inch deeper than the original root ball. Your first true leaves should sit clearly above the soil line when you are done. That is your visual guide. If those first leaves are buried or sitting right at the surface, adjust before you go any further. Now if you are gardening in heavy clay soil, raise the planting spot just slightly, and after your first watering, mound 2 to 3 inches of good compost around the base. Clay holds moisture well, but it drains slowly, and standing water at the crown of a pepper plant is an open invitation to rot. The compost helps that water move away from the stem and keeps the root zone breathing the way it should. One more detail that matters more than most people realize. After you set the plant and fill in the soil around it, make sure the ground around the base is level, or even slightly mounded outward. Never leave a bowl-shaped depression around the stem. A bowl collects water and holds it right against the crown. A gentle mound sheds that water away, which is exactly where you want it to go. But before any of that, before the plant ever touches the soil, I want you to reach into the bottom of that hole and work in 2 things that will change the quality of your harvest completely. The first is wood ash. If you keep a fire through the winter, you have this for free. Wood ash carries calcium, potassium, and phosphorus, and it gently adjusts the soil toward the range where pepper roots can actually absorb those nutrients efficiently. A good spoonful or 2 worked into the bottom of the hole is all it takes. One caution though. If your soil already runs alkaline, skip the ash and go straight to the second amendment, which is bone meal. Bone meal is simply ground bone, and it is one of the best slow-release sources of calcium and phosphorus you can give a young pepper plant. Those tender new roots will grow into it over weeks, drawing exactly what they need to build strong, productive plants. Together, wood ash and bone meal lay a foundation that feeds the plant from the moment the roots begin to spread. Now here is the detail that makes all the difference. After you work those amendments into the bottom of the hole, cover them with about 1 inch of plain soil before you set the plant in. That thin layer of soil acts as a buffer. It keeps the concentrated amendments from touching the tender roots directly on day 1, which can burn them. The roots will grow down into that rich zone naturally over the first few weeks, and by then, they are strong enough to draw from it without any damage. Set the plant in, fill the hole, and firm the soil gently with your hands. You are not packing it down hard. You are just closing any air pockets around the roots. Air pockets dry roots out and kill them silently underground. Once you are done, give the plant a gentle tug. If it shifts easily, firm the soil a little more. A well-planted pepper stands snug and steady, first leaves sitting up above the soil line, base sitting on ground that sheds water rather than collecting it. Now I want to talk about the heartbreak that ruins more bell pepper harvests than any disease, any pest, or any bad weather. You will recognize it the moment I describe it. You walk out to your garden one morning, the plants are loaded with fruit, everything looks promising, and then you turn a pepper over and find a dark, sunken, rotting spot spreading across the bottom end. It starts small, a soft brown patch, and it grows until the fruit is ruined and there is nothing left to do but pull it off and toss it. Most people assume something attacked their plant, a fungus maybe, or a rot in the soil. But here is what took me years of gardening to fully understand. That condition, called blossom end rot, is not a disease at all. Nothing infected your pepper. What happened is that the developing fruit ran out of calcium at exactly the wrong moment, and the cells at the bottom of the pepper simply collapsed. Here is the part that surprises most gardeners. Your soil probably has plenty of calcium in it. The problem is not what is in the ground. The problem is delivery. Calcium only moves through a plant in one direction, carried upward from the roots by water. When your watering is uneven, when the soil swings from soaking wet to bone dry and back again, that upward flow gets interrupted. The calcium stalls before it reaches the fruit, and the first 21 to 30 days after your peppers start setting fruit is when those young cells are growing fastest and need the most steady supply. Disrupt that flow during this window and you will see rot, every time. This is also why the wood ash and bone meal we worked into the planting hole matter so much. They put a reserve of calcium right at the root zone from day 1. But amendments alone are not enough. Steady, consistent watering is what actually gets that calcium moving. And there is something else worth knowing. Cooler nighttime temperatures are when roots do some of their most active work, pushing water and nutrients upward through the plant. So your soil needs to hold enough moisture through the night, not just during the heat of the day. The most reliable way I have found to water peppers correctly goes back to something people were doing long before garden hoses existed. Take an old plastic container, a bucket, a large jug, anything you were about to throw out, and punch 10 to 15 small holes around the sides and bottom. When you plant each pepper, sink that container into the ground right beside it, close enough that the roots will reach it, with just the open top sitting above the soil line. From that point on, every time you water, pour directly into that buried container and let it do the work. The water seeps out slowly through those small holes, moving straight down into the root zone over several hours. The surface of your soil stays dry. Your leaves stay completely dry. There is no runoff, no evaporation from the top, no water splashing soil up onto the foliage and carrying disease with it. The roots get a deep, even drink every single time, which is exactly the kind of watering that keeps blossom end rot from ever starting. What I love most about this method is that the buried container adjusts naturally to what the plant needs. When the surrounding soil is dry, it pulls water out faster. When the soil is already moist, the seeping slows on its own. You can check it easily too. Reach down and feel inside the container. If it is dry, time to water. If there is still moisture in there, give it another day. No guesswork, no overwatering, no underwatering. And because the water goes deep, the roots follow it deep. A pepper with deep roots handles summer heat better, stands up under a heavy fruit load, and keeps producing long after a shallow-rooted plant has given up. To finish this off, lay 2 to 3 inches of straw or dried leaves around the base of each plant after watering. That mulch layer holds soil moisture steady between waterings and buffers the soil temperature from swinging too sharply on hot days. Both of those things directly reduce the risk of blossom end rot, and they do it passively, without you having to think about it at all. There is one more layer to growing great bell peppers that most gardeners never think about, and it costs nothing to put in place. It is what you grow around your peppers, not just what you grow in the hole beneath them. The plants you choose as neighbors can quietly protect your crop all season long, without any sprays, without any effort, and without taking anything away from the peppers themselves. Basil is the companion I plant closest to my peppers every single year. Tuck a few basil plants in the shade beneath your pepper canopy, and they will go to work immediately. The aromatic oils in basil confuse and repel aphids, spider mites, and flies that would otherwise settle in on your plants. At the same time, when basil flowers, it draws in bees and beneficial insects that move from plant to plant and pollinate your peppers far more effectively than they would on their own. Many experienced gardeners, myself included, will tell you that peppers grown alongside basil simply taste sweeter at harvest. Whether it is the companion effect or just good growing conditions all around, the pairing works. Marigolds planted around the perimeter of your pepper bed do something important underground. Their roots release natural compounds that repel nematodes, tiny soil-dwelling pests that feed on plant roots and silently reduce your harvest without ever showing themselves above ground. Above the soil, marigolds attract pollinators and beneficial insects all season long. Plant them around the edges and let them do their quiet work. Chives and onions are another smart addition. Their sharp natural scent keeps many common pests at a distance. And unlike some companions, they do not compete with your peppers for water or nutrients. They simply share the space and contribute without taking. What you want to avoid planting near your peppers is tomatoes, potatoes, or eggplant. These are all in the same plant family. They share the same vulnerabilities, and planting them together concentrates disease pressure and root competition in ways that hurt everyone. Now, give your peppers the sun they deserve. Bell peppers are warm country plants at heart, and they need a full, long drink of sunlight every single day. If I had to name the single most common reason home gardeners get small, thin-walled peppers, it would be shade. Too many hours without direct sun, and the plant simply cannot build the energy it needs to fill out its fruit. Give peppers your sunniest ground, full sun from morning to late afternoon. Space your plants 18 to 24 inches apart, with rows at least 24 inches wide. That spacing keeps air moving freely through the plants, which dries the foliage after dew and rain and keeps fungal disease from finding a foothold. In areas where summer temperatures regularly push above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, a little afternoon shade cloth can actually help during the worst heat. Extreme heat causes pepper plants to drop their blossoms before they set fruit. A bit of relief in the hottest part of the day keeps those flowers on the plant and keeps your harvest on track. One more thing I want to mention because it comes up every season: Epsom salt. You have probably heard it recommended as some kind of garden miracle. The truth is more straightforward. Epsom salt contains magnesium, and magnesium helps leaves stay green and productive. If you see your pepper leaves turning yellow between the veins while the veins themselves stay green, that specific pattern is a sign the plant is short on magnesium. In that case, dissolve 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt into 1 gallon of water and pour it at the base of the plant every 2 to 3 weeks during the flowering and fruiting season. But only do this when you see that symptom. Using Epsom salt on healthy plants that do not need it throws the nutrient balance off and can actually work against the calcium uptake we worked so hard to protect. Use it when the plant asks for it, not before. And finally, pick your peppers regularly. Do not let them hang on the vine until the plant slows down under the weight of old fruit. A pepper picked sends a signal to the plant to keep producing. You can harvest them green and crisp, or leave a few to ripen fully to red, which brings out a deeper sweetness. Either way, keep them coming off the plant, and the plant will keep making more, right up until the first frost stops it. So let me bring this all the way back to where we started. My grandfather Walter used to say, "The pepper is made in the hole, not on the vine." And after a lifetime of growing, I believe it more now than ever. Harden your seedlings before they go out. Soak those roots before planting. Set the plant shallow, with good amendments worked into the bottom of the hole. Water deep and steady through a buried container. Mulch the soil to hold that moisture even. Choose your neighbors wisely. Give every plant its space and its sun. Pick regularly, and only reach for extras like Epsom salt when the plant actually shows you it needs them. Do all of that, and the peppers you pull off your plants this season will surprise you. Thick walls, real weight in your hand, flavor worth the wait. Not because of luck, because you gave that plant the right beginning. Drop a comment below and tell me what state you garden in, and whether blossom end rot has given you trouble in past seasons. I would love to hear what you have been dealing with and what has worked for you. Next time, I am going to walk you through building a proper compost pile the old way, the kind that makes the rich, dark, crumbly soil that makes every single thing I shared today work even better. Until then, remember this: a great pepper is not a mystery. It is just a plant that got the start it deserved.